Hello. Hi, everybody. It looks like it's still spinning. I'm not sure if this is fully on yet or not. Okay, there we go. Hi, EO Nation. Greg Yamako back with you this month. Hope everybody has had a good month and have been productive and taking their companies to the next level. So, a little history. I usually do a little history on things. I I have a software company now. We do mobile app and e-commerce development. I got started with, I got a finance degree and a accounting minor and got into financial planning and then into managing money and actually started a mutual fund back in 95. And I took that to $1 billion in assets in our investment firm and rode that wave up, basically rode it up pretty much like a rocket and then rode it back down again in the early 2000s. So with all our investing being in the world of connectivity and so forth, like the companies that were broadband, the chip companies, the router companies like Cisco and such that we were investing in, saw the future through connectivity, and software was a big contributor to that. And I ended up starting a software company in 2004. Went to India, set up my own office over there, and have a team of developers there that work on our different types of software applications. So I ended up selling off my firm, my investment firm, 2005, 2006, and had the software company up and running and evolved as the world evolved and saw the future being mobile apps and got into doing a lot of work with that. We also do a lot of deep data integration, connecting systems, making systems talk to each other, pulling out data so people can see them in a dashboard format to monitor their key performance indicators and determine the actual knowledge that's in their business and information in their business so they can have the best ability to make decisions with that knowledge. So, with that said, let's get into our questions here. Our first question is from Liv Gruber. Liv asks, how do you pay yourself from your business? Business description and background of question. I am going to start paying myself and want to know the best way to do so. Should I be paid as a W 2 employee, 1099 contractor, or is there another strategy? Our company is an LLC. So, Liv, given your company as an LLC, the only way you can pay yourself, well, there's two ways to pay yourself. You can pay yourself with a guaranteed payment. Okay, that's kind of like what your salary would look like, but on top of that, you can give yourself a bonus or a additional amount paid out to you that's kind of like profit share of what you've made up and above what you're paying yourself. So when you have higher profitability, you're going to have money to consider. Now, the guaranteed payment is going to be taxed a little bit different than a profit amount, and that potentially, and that being the case, you want to look at how much you actually want to get paid so much out from guaranteed payment. If you don't, the IRS may look at it weird, but that's something that Tab Burkhalter, who is a mentor, can talk to you about in more detail if you want to get into a little bit more of the nuts and bolts of that. So let's see what else I want to say around this. So it won't go to that. It won't be a 1099 that you get when you get a guaranteed payment. You'll get a K1 distributed from your company. So there's you will have to withhold your own taxes. Okay, so you may pay yourself amount. So say you pay yourself $5,000 a month. Okay, that 5,000 will actually go right to you in your pocketbook. Now every quarter, from the IRS's perspective, they're going to want you to withhold money or they're going to penalize you. So you can put your money into, you can take the $5,000 and you can take your taxes out of that, or you can pull more money out of the company to help to pay your taxes. It's just how you want to do that personally. But most people will pay themselves an amount, factor in taxes, and set that aside, and then pay the IRS on a quarterly basis. Now, there's another question you can ask about how much should I get paid, and that is relevant from the IRS perspective. Usually, it's not going to be too much of a factor as long as these things are reasonable, or you're not taking too low of a salary based on what's comparable for your industry and your job role. So something around Like, if you're taking out $100,000 a year out of your business, and that's kind of comparable for being the CEO of a company that does X, whether it's software, whether it's pet grooming, whether it's a salon, whether it's some type of design engineering or some type of architectural firm. Those numbers would be relevant within your respective look at them to make sure they're relevant within your respective industry and comparable, and you would take out an amount that would be comparable as long as you're earning that much. If it's a smaller number, then that's just what it is. But if you have a lot of profitability above your guaranteed, then it's something to think about. Something to talk to your accountants about too. A book that I would recommend called let's see, Simple Numbers, Straight Talk, Big Profits, okay, by Greg Crabtree. It's an excellent book that tells you things about comparability, or how to be comparable in the way you're paying yourselves, how to look at that, and a lot of factors within it that helps you with managing a partnership and paying your comparable or paying employees that are doing their respective roles, whether it's being the CFO, the chief technology officer, the chief operating officer, and so on and so forth. Thanks, Liv, for that question. Next question. Kristen Lattis asked, what do you do when a client has not paid the remaining balance from a project completed over 2 months ago? Business description and background question. I am a copywriter for online entrepreneurs. I completed website copy for a client. She paid 50% up front, but has not paid the last 50%. She does not answer my direct messages or emails. Elevator pitch. I write sales copy for online coaches launching product services who want to grow their business through persuasive writing. Excellent, Kristen. Sounds like you've got a needed business there. A lot of people out there starting businesses and getting out need that strong copywriting to allow for the messaging to be appropriate and attract the right clients, the right target clients they're trying to go after. So this is usually a tough one because you got a lot of factors to put in play, like what in pursuing this person are you going to be damaging the relationship? What's going to happen with your what's going to happen if you don't get paid? Okay, how does that affect you? In most situations like this, getting paid from a client is not going to happen, okay? Unless it's a big sum of money, and then you're going to get lawyers involved and so on and so forth. So given how much money you have here, unless you have a friend that is an attorney that will do you a favor, or if you have something like LegalZoom, a service where you pay monthly amount in and you can get them to write a letter for you, you can have a lawyer send a letter to the client. And that would probably be the only thing that you would want to take action on, or only thing I would take action on. Send a letter, see if it works. If it's not, you write it off, okay? That's lessons about doing business. It's happened over and over to all of us in business. We've not got paid for some reason or another, and at some point in time, maybe the client wasn't happy or something in that realm, and it'd be nice if they would have communicated that to you, but since you don't know, they're probably just running from the bill. And so they're having their own struggles and so on and so forth. So what do you do? Most of the time you put in processes, some type of process in place. Okay, in my experience, it would be like, since I have software and I build applications for people, whether it's a complicated website or an e-commerce site or a mobile app, I usually request payment, or I usually will make sure that they pay me before I give them the final version or the final documentation for that application. So in that way, I'm getting paid. And a lot of my, if I was working with a lot of new clients and such, then I would be more strict about that. But my business right now is like 12 to 15 core clients that just send me business and I do it and send it back, and I've been set up in a history of being paid, and I don't really have any issues. So I don't monitor this process stringently, and I've been in a good situation with it. So for you, it's like I said, looking at some process. There could be something, you may talk to some other people about what they have done, but in general, It's you got to do something that says, hey, client, I'm delivering you this. Need to get paid now. And if you have set up an online payment system, they get paid before you send over the final work to them. Unfortunately, sometimes it has to be done. If you're having a lot of new clients over and over again, you're going to run into people that just are not good at paying, and maybe they'll get back to you at some point in time, but they may be dealing with tough times, and so you have to go with that. Hope that works out for you, and with a letter or with a you may want to send a message saying that I'm going to I'm going to have my lawyer contact you unless you can take care of this of some sort. That could be the last straw before you actually get a lawyer involved. Now you got to look at it. If it's a $300,000, $500,000, it's going to cost you more to do the lawyer than it is to just write it off. So you got to have to factor that in. I don't have those numbers to help you with that. Next question. Let's see. Anazia, I think, Fargerado asked the question, how can I add value to someone of high caliber, like real life? I am going to see Sharon Lecter next month, and we will bond, and she will probably provide lots of value to me, and I would like to do the same for her, but don't want her to add same for her, but don't know how to add value to her life. Okay, so business description and background is financial coach. Okay, so in my experience and history, when there's an area where I cannot provide value through some type of my background of knowledge, experience, company, so forth, and I want to, then I look at an approach called giftology. Okay, you can look up the term. It was been coined by a guy who wrote a book on giftology and has a company called Giftology, which they go out and provide different levels of gifting to people in somewhat of a higher level. And by using this approach, you can give special, meaningful material gifts that they will be able to use regularly or see regularly, or something that reminds them of you and makes them think of you. Now, you don't do something where you put your name on it or whatever. In fact, it's kind of the opposite. You put the client's name on it. One of the tools one of the gifts they use are Cutco knives, which have a long history. They're high quality made, and you can engrave their name on the knives. These can be like a big carving knife and a big fork that you would carve up a roast or a turkey with, or they could be like steak knives that small, and you can have the engravings on the side. So there's a lot of options with what they do, and it's personalized. And I've heard stories of people where you give these type of gifts, and I've done it recently, and have gotten videos back from some of my clients saying really appreciate this, showing them with their name engraved on it, and you can just tell that people are really appreciative when they do that, or when they receive gifts like that. Another gift that I've given in the past is Aura frames, AURA frames. They're higher end digital frames that come with a mobile app that allow you to take the pictures off your phone, which since most of us are taking pictures on our phone, and send them to the digital frame. Really simple process, and you could have multiple people that have the app in say in a family situation. You've got parents and the kids, or even the grandparents, and the kids and maybe the parents for the grandparents are sending pictures to them of their life, and it's going to scroll through these pictures and allow people to share more intimately what's going on. Those frames create a good bonding experience. When you're watching those frames, you're looking at your history, and you see that, and you think about, yeah, that person got me a frame. What a great gift. Thank you. I'm looking at my memories. I'm looking at these great experiences with my kids or my grandkids and so forth that would really connect. I sent Aura frames to all my people, and I get positive feedback, all my clients, and I get a lot of positive feedback. And so this also could be used for a referral program, sending it out to do business with people on a somewhat of a higher end basis. So it's a good approach. You can go to Giftology, Giftology group.com to talk to them more about this approach. the Giftology book is a small, simple read, easy read that you can download to get a better understanding of how to use this approach to building value with certain people, building relationships with people, and so on. Hope that helps. Karina Stair is the next question, and Karina asks, what factors would you take into consideration when deciding between working on your own side hustle versus your spouse or their business? So her background, business description background is, my husband runs his own videography business and did approximately $250K in 2020. He has no employees, only contractors, no CRM, and does almost all administrative tasks manually. My experience is as administrative / operations management, so fixing these things, setting up systems, and running the behind the scenes are all strengths of mine. That being said, working with a spouse seems like it could have additional challenges I'm not fully aware of. So, Karina, yes, this can be a touchy situation, a lot of intricacies to deal with. So, some factors to consider is like, how well do you get along with your spouse? Okay, if you've been together a long time, you have a good history of being able to talk through issues and so forth, then this could be an environment where you can work together. I have worked together with a spouse of mine years back when I started the software company. I was in a relationship with somebody, and we got into a relationship because she had built an application for me when I was in my investment world, and we went on to get into a relationship, and then we started the software company together because that was her background, and I helped to fund that company and build it, and we ended up not working out, but we still continued to run the company together and had a really good situation until she met somebody, got married, and moved to over to Dubai, and then we changed up our arrangement. But it was very amicable and very we worked well together. But there's factors to be involved. She would say at times, like when you're having dinner discussion and evening discussion, it'd be like you always want to talk about business. So, I mean, that was a big passion of mine and motivator for me. And she saw some issues within that space of us focusing too much on business talk and not on our relationship and the other things that we like to do. So, business challenges can strain a relationship. If you already have challenges in a relationship, which no relationship is easy for the most part. It's a little bit of work. It can be a lot of bit of work, and with that, you have couples out there that if they already have strains, adding business complexity on top of that, and the challenges of being in business and running a business in the day to day could put a lot of pressure on a relationship. So, taking that into account and looking at your own relationship experience is important to factor in. So. Then I would have a thought here. Why you talked about one or the other? Why not do both? Okay, if you have a business doing this type of work that you were describing, being an administrative operations type person, setting up processes and simplifying businesses, and they would hire you to do that. Why would you not be in a situation where you could open up your own business, contract with your husband, and or your spouse, and have them pay you to do this work that you were talking about helping him with, but also market it and go out and talk to other people about the same thing and develop other clients that way. Market it on social media, get exposure out there, and grow it and see if it works for you. And if it doesn't, you end up just being your client, working with your spouse and being his client, and so forth. Then that would be a potential win anyway. So setting up an LLC is like $200 or $300 depending on what state you're in, and having it run through there could be very attractive. And you can explore both options, right? So maybe most of your work comes through your spouse, or maybe more of it, and as time goes on, maybe more comes through other companies, just depending on how you evolve and the type of work you're doing. So I think there's a potential to explore both options, or be in a situation where you're going to get a taste of both options and evolve it out as it goes. And if it doesn't work out with you and your spouse working together, then the other clients continue to grow and put more effort into marketing them and grow that business. So something to consider there. So I'd also would be thinking about, if you don't work with your spouse, then I would be thinking about a virtual assistant. A VA is very popular in today's world. You can get them overseas, you can get them locally, and for smaller, lower cost person, you're going to be able to do a lot of these tasks that will help your husband run his business, allow him to focus more on his strengths and what he does, and less on a lot of the administrative manual work that you were discussing. So hope that helps. And next question, Stephen Davis. Stephen asked, I came across an article about performance coaching. After doing a little research, it seems to be a new type of coaching. Have you ever dealt with a performance coach? What does it actually involve? How does it differ to what our current coaches offer? Thanks. Business description and background of the question. SUD Consulting LLC is a consulting company that offers a third-party HR service to organizations. This includes, but not limited to, payroll, benefits, HR support, and workers' compensation. Okay, so Stephen, performance coaching is an attractive option to look at. Okay, and what it is actually getting that coach is getting paid for the performance that they help create within your business. So if you say it's something like this, say your business does $100,000 a year, okay, coach comes in, starts working with you, and they're only going to get paid for your growth. You could look at like, okay, so I'm going to get 10% of the growth of your business above $100,000. So next year you do $200,000, then the coach is going to get paid 10% of that additional $100,000 that you did, and so they're going to make $10,000. Okay. It can be an attractive approach to your to getting help and to getting the right person to help push you to the next level, and so forth. So there's a lot of attractiveness to it. I've talked to marketing companies that do performance-based work where they will get paid when you. I have not used them, but I've talked to them. I also talked to strategic coaches that will help with their business that talk about performance-based type of work, and I have not done that either. It can be a lot of money. I'd rather pay them the money, their fee, than do it strategically. But if you don't have a lot of money and you really think they can offer a lot of value, then bringing them in place and doing this is a factor to consider. Now, something to keep in mind when you're doing this performance-based coaching, look at what you have been growing. What rate have you been growing previously? Okay, so if your annual growth is, say, 10%, then you want to make sure that you factor that in when you work out an arrangement to get paid from the coach. So like the example I used before, $100,000 income that you're bringing in now, and you're going to get paid for it. Well, okay, performance coach, I've been growing at 10% a year, so normally without any help, I'm going to do $110,000 next year. So the coach will get paid for the performance above that number. And so if they help you do $200,000, like I said before, then they're going to get paid on that $90,000 difference that would have been what you normally been growing at and what they helped you to achieve up and above that. Okay? Hope that helps, Stephen. Next question. Dan Bitter. Dan asked, how can I come to a new equity agreement with my partner while addressing his concern? Business description and background of question. I initially started as a coder in our tech startup, but my role has evolved to CTO. My equity share, which is Chief Technology Officer, my equity share hasn't yet changed from the 3% I initially agreed to. We're using a CFO service firm until we find someone to take on the role for equity. My CEO, Todd, is hesitant to redefine the equity until after we finish the business plan, because he wants a CFO-minded person to say, yes, the equity split makes sense, or no, it doesn't make sense, and here's why. We have a large bill coming due June 1st, which I need a personal loan for. I'm our only funding source for now, and I've been fine paying the bills as they come, but I feel my current 3% equity isn't enough to justify long-term debt. We've talked about 20-25% equity as a proper amount, which satisfies me, but time is growing short and I don't know how to have this conversation. Todd's concern is over-promising equity amounts. In his previous first startup, he gave 20% each to 3 people without keeping track of the total and wouldn't have had much left for himself for investors. His idea is that equity shares are final, while my idea is that we can proportionally decrease current equity values to offer equity to new partners. He's open to adopting a new model for addressing equity, but he's not sure how things are done and is erring on the safe side. Okay, Dan. Lots of detail there, so hopefully we can provide some questions to ask and maybe some insight. So my first thought on this, after reading all that, is if you are funding the only source for funding of the business, then that is a huge factor in determining your equity position. Okay, usually the person with capital has a lot of leverage in determining their equity position. I would look at that and see and have discussions around that. I mean, hey, I'm putting all the money in here and I only got 3%. If you are going to borrow money, which is really risky for this company, you're going to end up, if the company goes under, you're the only one that's going to be liable on that if only your name is on that debt. If the company name is on debt, then that's a different situation. But if you're the only one and you're going out to borrow this money, you're going to be holding that bag if the company doesn't make it. So there's a lot there to be discussed and around this situation and around equity. And also, if the other people can be on this debt, that would be beneficial to you, that you share the burden with other people that are part of this company, especially since you are the chief technology officer and you've come to you've grown this company with whatever idea that you have in place. You as a technology company and you are there as a developer, so you should have a lot of leverage as to what was created technology wise for the company and what you're going to be selling. So definitely see that it's attractive for you to have a higher position, but there's a lot of other factors that I may not be aware of that need to be taken into account. So under this model, though, you have a lot of leverage given you're the one putting the money into the company, which at 3% should be definitely discussed, refactored, and put into a situation where you're going to have a lot more reward for the risk that you are taking. So the other thing I would ask you is that, do you need to hire a CFO? Okay, why are you considering a full-time CFO? I've run multi-million-dollar businesses. My investment firm did up to $6.5 million a year. My software company has done up to $3.5 million a year. I've never had a full-time CFO. So there's great companies out there. You said you were using an outside consulting firm to do CFO services. I would consider that as my primary source until I really had the money to pay for a CFO. And how much value can that CFO add to you? And also, you're giving up equity here. So equity is expensive, okay? And when you give out equity, you're giving out an expensive piece of the company. And if there's other ways to do this, then the borrowing, factoring in, is usually a cheaper cost of debt. But making sure those responsible for that debt have adequate ownership in the company is a key for your situation. So you're putting money on credit cards, borrowing from family and friends, those type of things usually help get small companies off the ground, and where they have an attractive proposition and that's sellable to others, then you can get money from other sources to keep a company running and getting it up until you have adequate sales. But when you have adequate sales here, it's like talking about giving up. How much value does that CFO provide to your company that you need to give them equity? So factoring that in, okay, you just got to fill these roles up. You got COO, you got a CFO, you got a CEO, you got a CTO. You got these different roles you're trying to place, but do they all have to come in from equity perspective? Can some of these roles be played by a part-time person who's working somewhere else that can play the role until the company's making money to fully pay them a salary? Okay, so many things to factor in here. Be happy to help if you wanted to email me at greg@efficience.us, EFFICIENCE.us, and I'd be happy to discuss more with your situation. Also consider the book Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Okay, Chris was a FBI negotiator, and he's got great stories in his book about how he used these negotiation tactics to prevent people from getting killed, from getting them back, from getting money, people that were holding uh, valuable assets or people hostage for money, and it's a very informative book in negotiating processes. It should be read by everybody, and because every day is a negotiation in our lives. Every day we're negotiating with our clients, with our employees, with new potential clients, and so forth. That having these tools in place to help us. I mean, we're negotiating in our relationships. I mean, where do we go to dinner tonight with your spouse? You know, how much allowance do you give your kids? Everything's a negotiation, and having the best techniques is going to be beneficial. Okay, so our last question here is Samuel Pervier, and Samuel asks, if you have some extra cash in business, what would your next move be to grow the business? Business description and background. I am in the title search business. We provide B2B services. Our clients are title insurance company. Okay, so Samuel, if you have cash in your business and you're like, where do I put that money to create the most value? Then what I would do is I look at where the money I have spent previously that was giving me the biggest return. Okay, is that in a salesperson that you have? Then factor in how you can reward that salesperson more so to go out and getting you new business. If the biggest area is your social media, then what are you doing social media, and can you putting more money in that social media create more clients? A LinkedIn campaign, LinkedIn's social media, but I see that as an attractive option here because LinkedIn B2B type business, you said, is a great way to connect, and there's services out there you can buy that will do automatic connections and reaching out to people and telling them and follow-up messaging. So that's an attractive option, but only if you've experienced this or not. What have you experienced, and then what can you do to put more money to that? Okay, if you know something's working, then just add more money to it and let it help you grow even more. You don't have to do a bunch of new things. If you got one solid thing working for you and it's working and it's bringing you assets, and you can see that for $1 you spend in that area, you're going to get $1.50 or $2 back or $1.10 or whatever it may be. You're getting a return. Then continue to spend that money and bring in that growth opportunity with that return. The other thing is what I talked about earlier with the giftology approach. Okay, so would be taking some of that cash and building up your relationships, your existing relationships, or creating new relationships with a giftology approach. Okay, so you may want to check out the book. You can talk to the giftology people and get ideas within your marketplace. What would be a good gift to send out, and build those relationships. You know, with the Cutco knives, for example, is that you send them one set, and they're not cheap. They're gonna be $200 for like a group of steak knives, or $200 approximately for a carving knife and a fork. They're very high end, made with quality materials, and they have the engraving on there, and that's just strong in building up relationships. So, also, an option would be to set up dinners. Okay, a lot of people do this in the investment world, is that they'll set up a dinner at a nice like steak restaurant, like a Ruth Chris or a Fleming's or whatever you have in your respective area there. That your whatever your location is, you got a nice restaurant, nice high-end Italian restaurant. They have a back room or something, or a side room where you can do presentations. Then maybe you can invite a group of title companies in to do a presentation to them, or have dinner, or just dinner and drinks. Come socialize, get to know us, a few of your clients maybe, and a few new potential people, and just talk through. They'll see what you're doing. They can talk to your existing clients and see how well you work with them and get them in to potentially want to work with you. Definitely when you mingle existing clients that you've done really good work for and they're really high, think of you very highly, and you mix them with potential clients, it builds a lot of trust very quickly. And with that, the ability to bring in new business. So again, just analyzing your own situation. Where is the money that or given the money I have, when I've spent money for growth in the past, where did it come from, or where did it go, and what was my return? So you really got to be able to measure that. And if you put, $5,000 in this marketing program, and you saw zilch or moderate growth from that, you only got a 10% payback from that 5,000, then it's something you don't want to be doing. But if you're spending it and you're getting dollars in and at a higher value, then consider that, or consider those options that I talked about. I just kind of brainstorming a little bit to put out some ideas that you could think about for if you haven't done any type of other marketing campaigns, that you could take your extra cash and put it into those. So I hope that helps, Daniel. And that's all the questions I have today. So AO Nation, good. Hope everybody is having a good, prosperous year, and hopefully it's much different than it was last year with COVID and all the lockdowns and everything, and that you are out there in the world again and making things happen. So, till next time, take care.